Good evening, everyone, and welcome to yet another With Wednesday. My name's Stephanie Zickman, and I'm here with the amazing Ruby Leslie, who is probably the biggest expert on fear-free certification, that there is, because, well, what is it you're going to tell me off or something there, Ruby?
Your course. Okay, so I haven't done one of their courses. I don't have
Ah,
anything else.
right. Well, there you go. But almost. I'm sure it's on your to-do list. But that's not all you do either, isn't it? Not Ruby. You do loads of other things in the background. It's not just fear-free. So can you tell us a wee bit more about what it is you actually do on a daily basis?
Well, what I do is I drop my phone just right now. Of course.
As you
Of
do.
course. Of course that happens. As soon as I push record, my phone decides to drop. What else do I do? Well, I do dog training as well, and I write for Edition Cat magazine, which I know that you write for Edition Dog or Edition Cat.
Yeah, edition dog. No, I haven't a clue with cats.
I say I'm the proud slave of three rescue cats from China that I brought home with me. When I lived in China for 8 years, I do cooperative care, fear-free grooming. I've trained veterinarians, trained groomers, trained trainers, and I train pet owners. But I unfortunately had to come back to Canada after doing all that and being considered an expert in my field in China, and have surgery for endometriosis 2 times in 1 year. So it's been a challenge, but I'm slowly building it back. In my spare time, I also do animal welfare work. I did shelter consultation from 2011 until this year, and I'm just now transforming that into something else. I hope, fingers crossed, will materialize. I'm sure it will.
Yeah.
And in my spare time, I also do environmental enrichment sessions at a local shelter where I essentially do like an ACE setup for a dog. If you don't know what ACE is, it's kind of like, boxes or snuffle mats, and you do like the whole room is like a whole enrichment session. And I spend 1 hour with a rescue dog, and I observe all their behaviors and I document them, and I provide it to the team. And then they can provide that to the foster parents or the doctors and say, hey, maybe this dog doesn't like peanut butter, or they're scared of putting their heads in boxes, or they don't like these textures. Some of the interesting things were one dog went into learned helplessness because they were so scared of being in the shelter. And so it's more understanding, okay, well, when that happens, what do we do? And it's having the documentation behind it to help the behavior team. So that's one thing I'm trying to do when we're not in lockdown is every other week I try to go to the shelter and document their behaviors. And I'm using that for my ISCP advanced diploma thesis is enrichment and behavior in shelters.
That's really interesting, and it's so you're basically a workaholic then. Yes, you don't, but you live and
Yeah.
breathe animals.
Oh, wait, I'm not done yet. I'm also an editor as well.
Oh my goodness. Well, there you go. See, is there an end to what you do? Honestly.
Uh, I can't sing and I can't speak languages, which I learned in China was very bad because a lot of them don't speak English. And I can't, I'm as a Canadian, we should speak French and English. And I always did horribly in French, but I was like, surely I can learn. I cannot learn any language. I get them all jumbled in my brain, and then just comes out a big, huge jumble. And we hope for the best.
Well, when I put up the post, obviously we were intending on getting this recorded a lot earlier than what we are now, but obviously over that time I have had quite a few questions put forward, which is good. So it gave us enough time to kind of think about things. So I'm going to go straight into it because one of the most kind of popular questions I think amongst groomers particularly is, what does fear-free mean? And I think it is relative. It is relative to, or subjective even, to each individual, but we're quite interested in what your opinion is of what fear-free means.
Well, that's a really, really good question because I think in North America, it's a more recognized movement. In Europe and the UK, it's not as recognized. And here it's widely respected. And let's go to the definition. For me, fear-free is essentially having limited or reduced fear in a training, grooming, or veterinary situation. And so our aim should be always to alleviate or reduce fear, anxiety, and stress through our behaviors, through our actions, through all the things, all of our interactions with the animals in our care.
Yeah. I think a lot of the time people are taking it quite literally and they're saying,
Yeah.
there's no such thing as fear-free. But then again, there's people that say, we need an element of fear anyway, so we would never want to discourage absolutely zero fear.
I've seen that in the fear-free professional group, about how there's professors who will state that fear-free as a context is not true.
Yeah.
But if you go into academia, let's go into the scientific realm. There is nothing that we do, even just doing this recording, that is not less, fear-free.
Yeah.
But our job is to reduce fear.
Yeah.
Our job is to alleviate fear.
Exactly.
Because if we increase the fear, then the animal is going to have a traumatic experience, and then they're going to have an even worse experience and be in trauma for the rest of their life doing certain actions, and that will leave them with a negative one-time experience that will have an animal who can't have a nail trim.
Yeah.
And so I think that we can't take things too literally, which is hard, because I know that I'm a very literal person, but we have to say it is the idea of it.
Yeah.
And I hope I answered that question. So there's a two-part to that.
No, that was it. You did. You answered it fine. What does fear-free mean to you? So you did. But the next question kind of follows on to that, and it's because you're obviously a certified practitioner of fear-free in the many different sectors as well. How has it helped you in your career? I know you've sent me some case studies, so can you talk a bit about your case studies?
I want to actually first talk about why I got involved in fear-free.
Okay.
So I want to, when I worked in China, I worked with many volunteer to very vet clinics, and I was asked to train vets.
Uh-huh.
And I saw what they were doing, because they're not trained how we're trained. Like in China, you go to school and you do a 4-year degree course, and that is how you do veterinary care. They don't yet have the advancements in animal welfare that we do. They're getting there. There's a cat over there. They're getting there, but they're not there yet. And so a lot of the techniques they do are very forcible. And I had a lot of experiences that were very traumatic, and I'll save for people who are sensitive. But I said that if I have to train vets, which I had other vets asking me to do, I have to know the techniques. I have to know how we can reduce fear. This is not right. Why is this not right? And so I first became a fear-free veterinary certified professional before I became anything else.
Okay.
So that was why I did that. So let me go into a case study. So let's do, which one would you like to do? Bruno or Olive or Momo or Choo Choo?
Choo Choo. Let's go for Choo Choo.
Yeah, so Choo Choo actually is a recent one, and Patches needs to be involved. He needs to be involved. Cats are spectacular animals. We forget that they're just little prey species who just want to be loved. And that's why they have such interesting behaviors. It's because they are a prey species and they're predator species. So they have all these different behaviors, but they're also a lovable species, which all species are, even spiders, if they stay away from me. So for Choo Choo and Momo, they're 2 rescue dogs in China, and they actually did online training with me. And I want to reiterate that you can do this online. You can do this in person. This is not just something that you need to do one-on-one. You can do it online, and I've done it online very successfully with many dogs. And so with Cho-Cho, she's a medium-sized, about a year-old dog, and Momo's a bit older, and they were both highly abused. And the people who rescued them are just the kindest, nicest people you'll ever meet. So smart and so in tune with their dog's behaviors. But Cho-Cho had to be spayed.
Yeah.
But they couldn't bring her to the vet because she had been so mishandled that they couldn't even bring her into the vet clinic without her trembling and running away. So it was actually a concern for her safety. And what happened is my friends in China said, hey, you need to talk to Ruby. I'm still doing online training for China. And so Momo also was having difficulty with strangers and fear. So we're having 2 dogs that have this fear context, and they're emoting off each other, emotional contagion. So with Cho-Cho, I did desensitization and counter conditioning online and taught them how to handle her in a way that was comfortable for her, to introduce new objects to her. And Momo, because Momo saw a person with an umbrella, she'd want to attack the person.
Right.
So in Chocho, if you touched Chocho, she'd run away. Literally, the first time that I did a online like this with them, she saw me and she went into the bedroom. That was how fearful she was of just hearing another person's voice. So we use Momo as our example. And eventually, by teaching them how, through the fear-free ideas of how to do, Patras is trying to attack Marmalade, ideas of desensitization for handling and preparing them for vaccinations, preparing them for that, and also telling them, work with your Chinese vet. Go there, say, here's some chicken. This is the best place ever. Creating like the meet and treat situation, which you can do at a grooming salon, you can do at a veterinary clinic, you can do anywhere that the dog has negative experiences at. And the Chinese vet went along with it. I'm sure because they speak fluent Chinese, of course I can't. And so they spoke fluent Chinese and said, hey, our dog is scared of you, but she needs to be spayed. She's 1 year old. And so they work together. Of course, we're going to have a cat fight next to us, just to give you a heads up on that. So eventually they got her where they could have a great visit and she could be spayed without any problems. And they were so amazed that their previously untouchable dog could be touched by vet because of the techniques that I taught them. So, and they worked hard on. I have to be mindful. They did the hard work. I taught them.
So how did you get that commitment then from the guardians? Is it just desperation, really, that they were at their kind of, yeah.
I think, I mean, in China, there's a lot of dogs that are not neutered and spayed. It's not a very common thing because of the cultural and lack of animal welfare advancement. It's increasing, but it's now a safety concern. But they had the commitment because they're just really good people.
Right.
And that's where I was astounded. I was like, I can't believe that you two are so dedicated. And they sent me video after video after video to say, okay, how are we doing this wrong? And they were so committed because it was, we need to get her spayed before she goes into another heat. Yeah. And if she goes into another heat, we're going to have dog fights on our hands.
Right.
On every single walk.
Okay, so you mentioned counter conditioning and desensitization, which is a huge topic in the fear-free approach, but also in many other force-free approaches. For the members of the group that don't know what that means, could you give us a brief kind of description?
Thanks for that. That's a fantastic question. I'm one of those trainers who always forget the definition but know what to do. That sounds so horrible, but there's like the operant conditioning and all this sort of stuff. Like some people are so like they're into the quadrants of training. Obviously, I'm into the positive reinforcement. I'm into force free, but I'm like I have to remember in my brain all these definitions. The best way I can say it is to take a negative stimuli and change emotions behind it. So the way that I always explain it is like flooding is to take a person into a room who's scared of spiders and say, I hope that you're going to be okay, right? But desensitization and counter conditioning would be taking you at a distance where you're comfortable and slowly working you towards that negative stimuli. So when you are exposed to that stimuli, it's no longer negative.
Yeah. Well, kind of like kind of subliminal messaging. Like, so the fear stimuli is there in the background where they don't really recognize it. And then you're just gradually bringing it closer to the point where they're not even acknowledging the fact that the object's there. And they do that in tele with humans all the time. It's subliminal messaging. And I know what you mean, though. It gets so confusing when you go into the quadrants and that. But it's far better to give an example of how to do it than the example of what it actually means.
So I can use all of it as a case study, and we can show you through that what DS and CC means. Because it's such a big tongue twister. I just use DS and CC. I'll just like tumble over my words, and I'm like, yeah, that word.
I'm glad I'm not one.
Yeah, so I'll just say DS and CC. I'm like, I can say it once, and then we can do DS and CC after that. That's how I write it. So Olive is a Yorkshire Terrier. She's 5 months old, and she I think either breeding or however she had enormously horrible teeth, and they couldn't have the adult teeth come down because the baby teeth were stopping him. And so she had a groomer, and I work with a local fear-free certified groomer who's mobile. And she said, Olive needs your help. Do you mind not doing that on the camera? Thank you. Welcome to Cass.
Okay, for rating 18.
You're just hitting the high notes, Patches. So Hiroko is her name, and she said, Ruby, there's a case and they really need your help. And they had already done puppy training, and I find a lot of group classes, in no disrespect, I just give up on this, in no disrespect to the group classes, that they, you just can't control it, can't you? They don't always pay attention to the emotional needs of the dogs involved.
Yep.
And so a lot of the dogs who I get on the later parts are saying, hey, my dog was really fearful and they didn't tell me that. Or my dog couldn't do XYZ because, and they will just say, oh, your dog was stubborn. Well, your dog is not stubborn, they're fearful. And so when I got Olive, blah, blah, blah. Let me go backwards. Any sort of grooming supplies, like your nail trimmer, your brush, anything like that, she saw that, she was going to run.
Yeah.
So the very first session I couldn't do with her because, A, she had to go for dental surgery and get all those teeth out, which are causing her pain, which is then also going to be affecting her handling. So this is a really big concern of mine, is that if a dog has, or a cat has sensitive, is touch sensitive, to always rule out pain, because it drives behavior. So she had a lot of pain. And so what we worked on for the entire first session was preparing her for the veterinary exam, handling, poking her in the skin, like pinching it. And we're doing it where she wants to be involved. If she stopped, we stopped. And that's a really important part of fear-free, is that if the dog struggles for 3 seconds, you're going to be increasing FAS, fear, anxiety, and stress. If a cat struggles for more than 2 seconds, you are now increasing FAS. So when I'm doing my own nail trims for these guys, yes, you too, I have to remember that, and I have to have food on hand, because the one behind me was semi-feral. He's been abused, and Spark was thrown into a garbage dump. These are all very sensitive animals who, if you force into positions, they're going to howl and be extremely fearful. So I'm remembering all these 1, 2, 3s. So that was one thing with Olive is, okay, if you pinch her for a little bit, 1, 2, 3, it's 3 Ds of training which is distance, duration, distraction, along with desensitization, DSNCC, I'm not going to say it again, and then along with the fear-free principle. So you're putting everything together to create cooperative care. And then she actually, when I said had to do the vets, she did great.
Yeah.
And then the last session we just had, because the mom, the guardian messaged me and said she's really scared of the I'll go backwards to what I mentioned earlier. She's really scared of the nail trimmer. If I bring it out, she runs. I brought my own. And so one thing that you want to always remember, if you have a negative experience with one certain equipment, to change it. So I brought my Kong Zoom Groom, and I brought some nail trimmers with me, and I presented it and DS and CC'd to that. And then by the end of the session, we could actually do 3 strokes with her, with a brush, with the Kong Zoom Groom, which we could never do. And I posted on my Instagram, and the groomer who referred me, she's like, is this Olive? She says, I can't believe you can touch Olive with a brush. She couldn't even do it. And so that's where it's amazing. And that's why we have to put all these principles together to create these plans so the dogs can then be able to be groomed.
Yeah, and I think the great thing about fear-free is it opens your eyes to the differences between learned helplessness and acceptance, yes, flooding, and yes, all these sorts of behaviours that we're not really acknowledging correctly in the grooming environment, and every kind of environment really. So could you tell us a wee bit more about what learned helplessness is?
Fantastic question. So learned helplessness or emotional shutdown is when the dog, you'll see, I'll use the experience of the shelter as a case study example for you. So I was doing the enrichment session, and they said this dog's really fearful. And the dog just laid down on, she sniffed and she sniffed, and she heard some sounds, and that triggered her. She laid, even though I had relaxed my dog music on really loud, she laid on the ground and just did not move.
Yeah.
I said her name, she was not responsive. And that's a big thing I was trying to do. Things like, like, are you here? Like that. Okay? The best way I can explain it is like you get some really bad news and you feel numb on the inside. Okay? Which essentially is like, my going back into surgery, I felt like I was numb. And so you're in shock. And so when you have a dog who's in learned helplessness, their emotions are completely shut down. That does not mean you should be touching them. You should not be approaching them. You should not be anywhere near them, because if you are, you will be bitten, because that dog is in such fear that they will be in fight or flight response and either run from you or they're going to bite you. And so when that dog happened and when that dog laid, I put my Relax My Dog music on. I took a video and I sent it to the behavior coordinator. I said, what do you want me to do? Because I have her email, and I said, like, what's the issue? And so after a little bit of the music, being as loud as I possibly could, the dog actually was able to come out of it. So because I turned my head away, I turned my body away, I did not have her looking at me in any sense of the way, she was able to complete the enrichment session.
That's amazing. I mean, we just, there's so much to learn about canine behaviour and feline behaviour, and the likes of your fear-free certification is certainly a place to start if you're wanting to kind of tap into it in a wee bit more of a relevant way, because I think, like, well, for you and I, we've done the ISCP, you're working towards the advanced diploma, so that's a lot more behavioural kind of based if you want to be a practitioner in behaviour. But for groomers who maybe don't want to invest in that money and that time, Fear Free is going to get you fundamentally what you need to know in that environment, and enough to have you not inflict any more damage onto the dog or the cat.
No, I don't want to be like, I'm like there are some people who wear the badges, and they're into that thing, and they're like, I am a Fear Free, and I do advertise for it because it's what you should promote. Yeah. I'm also low stress handling, because I think if you need to have the theory, you need to have the practical. And so that was one thing when I did the Fear Free veterinary certification. And by the way, I want to mention the Fear Free certifications are stepping stones. They're not, the first one you do is easy. It's like, okay, this is like the baby steps. The more you go into it, the harder it's going to be. But the more information you glean from it. So if you take it and you're like, yeah, try some more. And the more that you're certified in it, they have some free webinars. The more you're going to learn and say, hey, this stuff is actually pretty good, because it's not just written by one person. That's a key here. They ask experts to write the courses. Yeah. So the Fear Free Groomer is written by Terry Hayward, who is KPA, CPD, blah, 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 blah. Anyways, I took a course with her in person as well. So I've done the practical with her, and I've done the theory with her now. So I think that's where you need to complement both of them together, because, grooming is such a challenging situation in the training environment or in the salon environment that you need to have them both together. The Fear Free is really good as theory. It's really good as a documentation. It's really good to have that support base of having these scales that they provide you. Their infographics are astounding. And so I can provide it to my clients and say, hey, you have this. Here's why we couldn't do this. And so it's support for you. Now they have their own issues. We all have our own issues, but they have the best of the best writing these courses. It's not just one person. Low stress handling was written by Dr. Sophia Yin. And that's where she was my icon. And I remember when she passed away, I was like, my heart was broken into pieces. Yeah. Because I was like, this is one of my icons who I've never met. And so I did low stress handling. But when I did it, I realized it was written in 2014. We're now 2020 and COVID's fucked us up. Excuse my language, but it's been a hellish year. We're beyond what the 2014 did. She probably wrote this in 2011, 2012, 2013. We're beyond some of the techniques that she's using. And that's where you take a grain of salt from everything that you do and you put it all together. Yeah.
And you have to understand that things are going to evolve, and we're going to be, 10 years down, we're going to say, well, that maybe wasn't right based on what we know today. So yeah. I absolutely adored the low stress handling, but again, it's like you say, you take from it what you know is right and relevant for what we know today.
Well, and I think that's the issue is, again, we're taking things so literally.
Yeah.
You can't say, okay, well, maybe, well, why did she do this? Well, she did this because it was 60 years ago. The things that are relevant are still incredibly relevant today. And so what I did with all that is when I had my Fear Free and I had my Welch's handling, I went and taught 35 groomers for 3 days workshop in Beijing and said, I had this knowledge, let me share it. And that was in 2018. And I was, so no, I don't want to do updates. No, of course it happens. Of course it happens. And so this is where I took that knowledge and I applied it. And that's where you saying, let's do this, I was like, oh, damn, I had to finish the Fear Free Groomers course. But I did it because then now I can apply it.
Yeah.
And I love having those life pushes. And the issue I find a lot of people don't want to do the online training. You know, they're like, oh, it's online, it's not really good. We're in times of COVID. Let's be realistic. You can't go to a group of 50 to 100 people to a lesson. And one thing that I saw in China that really upset me was many years ago, I went to a grooming school. And they had dog after dog after dog after dog after dog. And all these dogs were showing high FAS. So, and I was like, this is not right. I'm not going to work with you. Now they go internationally for grooming competitions. They're, you know,
yeah.
By not working with them, I lost money. I lost big and very, very, very big money because I could have done workshops with them and I could have made, you know.
Yeah.
But then what do you compromise? And so, yeah, you compromise the welfare of the animals that are involved. And that's why I say my goal is animal welfare no matter what I do. And that's why Fear Free is good and low stress handling is good and ICP is good. You put it all together.
Yeah. It's interesting how you came on and spoke about the credibility as well, because that was the next question. So there are loads of people out there that think because it is an online course or it's not very credible, so why waste your money on getting that bit of paper? But it's like you say, you put it into practice, you get the practical done, and you've got that theory behind you then to build that and back it up. So what's your thing about it?
I was add something to that. The Fear Free shelter, if you can do that, it is astounding. It is astounding. It is one of the best Fear Free courses I have ever done. It is not written by anybody really associated. It's written by Dr. Brenda Griffin, who is one of the head veterinarians for the Maddie's Fund Shelter Program, which is one of the world's best shelter medicine programs. So if you want to change your shelter, even change your grooming environment to reduce FAS, take that course. It's free. They're not making money off that course. They're saying, we're going to help you with this course. Yeah. You get so many downloads, you get so many information, and you know, like you have the certification for it, but you're not paying for it because if you volunteer for a shelter, you volunteer for a rescue, you can apply and say, I did that. Yep. And that's what I did. And I was like, oh my gosh, this course has changed how I think. Because you see the dog, you know, yeah, you go to a grooming salon and you often see dogs upon dogs upon dogs in cages. How can we improve that cage environment? How can we improve the FAS in that cage environment? How can we, you know, make it into welfare minded in this environment that we can say, hey, we're actually going to increase client satisfaction. We're going to increase clientele. We're going to increase our own monetary gains because, you know, that's what we want to get people going. But we're going to increase the animal welfare. So let's go into that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean, and it's also very relevant because we did a topic earlier on in the month with, in fact, we interviewed Lorraine Jardine, who's the Islay Dog Rescue, and it's how we can work up a relationship with our local shelters and get the grooming in there so that these dogs are getting used to the handling before they're, you know, obviously rehomed into their, you know, their forever home. So, I mean, that course certainly is very relevant to groomers. So,
yeah, and if you do any sort of helping with rescues in your groomer, why can't you use that and apply that?
Yeah, exactly. So you've answered that question. So what's your favorite thing about Fear Free then, Ruby? What do you love most about it?
Good question. I like the materials and resources I'm provided.
Me too.
I know, because it gives you a business idea.
Yeah.
You know, with the grooming, and also Terry Harewood said this, and she says, I have to get on this. This is like on my thing. We have to brand what we do. We forget to do it. We're so involved in the day-to-day menial things, we forget that we are a brand and we have to promote our brand. And so they teach you, not only do you have the emotional, medical records, you have the FAS scales, you have all the skills, like all the templates you can provide your clients and adapt them as you choose to. You can provide checklists. They provide you with checklists, but they also provide you with some business ideas. And that's really important because we are running a business. We have to make money. No offense, we have to make a living. I would like to make $1 million a year. I'm definitely not going to be doing it this year after having so many surgeries. But I mean, ideally, we have to brand and market what we do as a brand. And that's something that doing the groomer course and the fear-free course is, you're learning animal welfare, you're learning to reduce fear, but you're also learning to improve yourself as a business person.
Well, you kind of answered again the last question. How do we get our customers on board? But I think the resources are a big one. It's like you say, they are so amazing. Like the graphics and the infographics that they provide you with are so easy to understand and follow. And for your kind of customers getting that pamphlet to say, oh my gosh, it makes sense now, I can totally get it. It sells itself. But what's your opinion of that?
It does sell itself. I mean, that's but you have to sell it for yourself. And so the difference for me is I'm a trainer. So I can go and I can do the DS and CC. And I talked to my groomer friend and she says, you can charge more. I can, if you have the certification, increase your prices. You are worth more money. You have the certification to back you, have the resources to back you, have the support system to back you, because they have the Facebook groups, they have, they're very helpful to helping people.
They've got a podcast.
What?
They've got the podcast as well.
Yeah, there's podcasts, there's free webinars. You have a support base. Increase your prices. But also what you can do, and if I was to do a grooming salon, which I'm not going to because, COVID and salons is a whole different game right now. Everything that's big is closing, so I'll stay mobile. So with me, what you do is you take each step and you break it down. And so as a trainer, I can have an hour to work with the client and say, you know what, you have homework to do. As a groomer, you can't do that, right? They expect you to do it. They say, well, I gave you my dog for a nail trim. You can't do that nail trim. Are you a good groomer? No, you're not. And so they have these really high expectations that no matter their dog's fear, that you have to do the job that you are required to do. So as a groomer, and one thing about Fear Free is that they promote breaking things down into graduated steps. So then that way you're maintaining clientele, but you're also decreasing fear. Like, a meet and treat, come into the salon, come say hello. Don't charge for that. Or you can charge for that, but nobody wants you to charge for that. If you have a salon, do a meet and treat when you're like, I'm going to, just meet at the waiting room. Then you come into the salon and like the area for the tub, introduce them to that and say, today we're going to do like a tub introduction. If the client can be involved, they can understand more, right?
I think customers are so reluctant to have guardians in watching them, but I find that when you're getting the additional handling help, you're getting that ideal opportunity, that golden nugget to actually sell it, like what you do, and educate them better.
And that's the thing, and that's the hardest thing is it's hard to not involve. It's hard to want the guardian there. As a trainer, and this is what I say, is I can train any dog. You give me, I train these guys to do touch and come and to leave it, so that sort of stuff. My family's just like, your cats come. So Marmalade, this one right here, she was trying to sniff the pumpkin pie during Thanksgiving, and my parents were like, oh my God. And I'm like, number one, do not play with the cat. Number two, she knows leave it. Use a cue. And they're like, who the fuck is this? Obviously cats can be trained. And if you have a cat as a groomer, which you do, because Patches actually, he's a long-haired cat, and long-haired cats need a lot more grooming than short-haired cats. He has to get more mats, and I have to groom him. And that's why he's called Patches, because I always cut patches of fur out of him. He's the most stunning little boy there is, but he doesn't always look good when I'm not the best at the scissor detail, but I'm the best at making sure he's not fearful of it. So whenever I cut him now, He's purring in happiness because I'm taking the pain away. So to get back to the story, you're going to break things down in criteria. You're going to say, okay, I'm going to teach you. And then that way you can also increase your prices, saying, I'm teaching you. You are now going to be my handler for the day. You can do like handlers for the day. You can do like, you know, come into my store and let me show you what I can do. And let me show you why I think that your dog can't do X, Y, Z. The problem with grooming is that people drop dogs off at your salon and say, I'll see you in an hour.
Yeah.
And then the dog is there shaking in fear. And I've seen a lot of dogs in learned helplessness with a hair blow dryer. And actually there's a person on Instagram who makes these amazing detailed things. And I was like, oh, I'm so excited to buy things from you. And then she put a video of her dog with her doing a blow dryer. And I was like, your dog's showing signs of stress. Now she doesn't talk to me. There you go. Because I think a lot of people are, I'm like, I can show you documentation. But a lot of people are very defensive about their animals. And they're very defensive that their animals are showing stress. Well, that's your job to be taken care of. Well, actually, it's not. And so that's where you can kind of be semi-trainer, semi-groomer. You can say, here's your homework to help me make a better experience for your dog or cat. Give them the lesson plans, make them short, make them sweet. Say, here's what you're going to do. You know, like you're going to touch your dog's paws. You're going to manipulate their paws. And then when I do a nail trim, your dog won't hate me. And that will, again, increase client satisfaction, increase clientele, because they'll say, we trust you. And having that level of trust with the client will mean you have a long-term client, because groomers see dogs and cats more than we do. You know, you see them on a regular basis. If you can say, I can drop my dog off with Steph and know for an hour that my dog's having a good experience and they're like in a spa, well, you know what? You can increase your prices, Steph. You can then create clientele relationships. You can then say, hey, I love seeing your dog. Give them bandanas. You can sell stuff for them. You can say, oh, it's Halloween. You have the best dog for Halloween. You know, like you can then create that relationship that we as trainers can't do. Yeah. So you have all these opportunities that you can do if you use certain principles of your free NLSH, malicious handling, or behaviors or trainer ideas, and you mesh them together.
Yeah.
That's I
absolutely love talking about it. And I'm sure that after listening to this as well, that a lot of groomers in the group will be more encouraged to take the fear-free certification. For what it's worth, I mean, it's worth every penny, first of all, and it's a fantastic stepping stone for sure for anyone looking to learn more. I absolutely love the FAS scale. I have it hung up in my staff. So which one's he?
This is Spark.
Oh.
Spark has to be involved on my lap whenever I'm doing talks. Whenever I'm doing any sort of, I did a training thing for veterinarians in China on webinar. They paid me, you know. Yeah. and then it was halfway through. Spark's like, I shall be involved. This is the 9 kg cat.
Oh, he's lovely, so handsome.
He knows it. He's an exhibitionist, and he likes to lay his belly up. So he's like a cat dog rare breed.
We've got a cat groomer in the group as well, Katie. So she's the holistic cat groomer. So she's like basically me, only for cats, which is really cool. So she'll probably be like, look at that cat.
Oh no.
Him.
My parents are very angry with me because he had mats on his hind quarters. And so I trimmed his hindquarters just a bit, and they're like, you have balded the cat, because he's very, very fuzzy. He's very fuzzy. He's not fat. We're just going to go with that conversation, even though he does eat all the food. He's a bit of a bully cat. And when you have a group of cats who are bonded, you typically will have one bully cat. That's just the behavioral system. Anyways, he is just a very big cat. And so my parents like, you've scalded the cat, because he now doesn't have the exact fur that they like, because he's like their favorite. And I'm like, you can get the mats out of this goddamn cat. So yesterday he got poo in his paw, and I had to DS and CC because, I mean, lovely, isn't it? This is why knowing this stuff for daily care for groomers can then help your clients, because, I mean, I had to take poo out of his paw, which is spectacular. He was howling all the other cats came to his rescue. I was like, get me the food now. Get me. My mom was like, oh my God. She ran across the house, got me the cat food. And I was like, and then Sparks like, meow, feed, 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 meow, feed, feed, feed. Because again, 2 seconds for struggling. But this is where you can give that information to your clients and say, hey, if your cat gets, poo in their paws, which does happen almost all the time, or your dog does, here's things that you can do to make your life easier.
Yeah.
Sell what you do. That's the hardest thing. The hardest thing that I have a tendency to forget is, because I get so wrapped up again in my own studies, is I tend to forget to sell what I do.
Exactly. No, I think it's been really interesting speaking with you, Ruby, and I'm really thankful that you spent the time to actually talk to us. And yep, like expected, we've probably been about the guts of an hour now.
Told you, I'm so sorry. No, it's actually been 40 minutes.
Oh, good for you. How did you know that?
Because we started around 12:05, and then we started chatting, and it was 12:12, and then it's 12:54.
Well, if maybe you guys are still watching, then well done. I'm very chuffed.
But and also to see all the cats as well, which was like the best thing ever, I think, in my world. And Pat is going to be an exhibitionist for all of you as well.
Oh my gosh, I know. I'm putting on an 18 rating. I'm not even joking. Right. So if there's any questions on Fear Free, then members of the group can just comment on this post here, and you or I can kind of answer any queries. Probably you.
Or if there's any questions on Fear Free and other studies and how you can apply training, grooming, fear-free principles as a mesh. That's the way that I can view it. This is like another chip on another badge on my shoulder, even though I don't wear the badges, because the way that we're going to be looking at this and say, okay, how can we tell our clients you can trust me because I have all this behind me?
Yeah, I know, and it's not just about one thing. Exactly, that's it. And I think we need to get into that kind of mentality that it's an old-fashioned outlook that groomers are groomers. They're not. They have to be trainers. They have to be behaviorists. They need to kind of be dermatologists as well. I mean, because we're dealing with skin and hair, for God's sake. Like, I just don't. But times are changing, Ruby. I can feel it, and I think the more people that kind of listen and are more kind of open-minded, then the better.
Exactly.
So
it's going to take time, and that's the thing we have to remember is that, as we've learned with COVID, change is stressful.
Yeah.
And sudden changes are stressful for many people. I like it. I thrive under it, but I'm not a usual individual. So I think that we have to take time and understand that maybe if you and I have it, doesn't mean that 10 other groomers are going to have it, but it might mean that in 5 years, those 10 other groomers might have it. And so it's kind of more saying, let's get all these little, chips, or like feathers in our cap, and say, how can we be the most well-rounded groomers, trainers, and counselors? I like to call myself. I'm essentially a counselor for the person support team, and help the animals.
Yeah, it's all about integrated care, and that's basically what holistic is, isn't it? It's just taking everything combined and making it, that one dedicated service. Right, so I'll put this up this evening. It'll probably not load until tomorrow, but that doesn't matter. So I'll just put it up to load this evening, and it means then that everyone can have a wee listen and ask any other questions that they may have. But we'll catch up at some point down the line again, and maybe look at webinars and things like that going forward, maybe.
Yeah. I would be ecstatic, and that's the issue that I have is because I've had again, I need to bring awareness about endometriosis. 1 out of 10 women have it. Having a bad period, I'm going to be bluntly honest, changing your pad every hour is not normal. I was told it was normal when I was a teenager. It is not normal. Having bad periods where you're passing out from pain is not normal. Yeah. Having bad periods where you have migraines, back pain, nerve pain, if you have any gynecological issues like knife-like pains, internal pressures, see your doctor. And if your doctor does not believe you, see another doctor, find another doctor. Because my doctor didn't believe me when I was a teenager, and it took me 25 years to be diagnosed. Wow. The average wait for any woman is 8 years. I've had to put my world on hold because I've had to have 2 surgeries and I have no more reproductive organs. I am lucky though, because the endo did not travel throughout the body. It is not a reproductive disease. It is a disease where tissue similar to but different than the lining of the uterus grows around the body. It has been found in the brain. It has been found in the lungs. The only place it's not been found is in the spleen. It will wrap and glue your tissues together. My ovary was glued to my bowel was being strangled. So if you're having spasms in your bowel when you're having your period, like I did, please, 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 please see a doctor. And the problem with endo is they can't see it diagnostically because it is clear, or the lesions are within the tissue. Yeah. So unless it's an endometria, which is where they have the endophylled cyst, which is when that's advanced, like my cases. Mm-hmm. So you need to do a laparoscopic surgery for that. And that's why you need to have awareness being made about it. But yes, in the future, once I'm more healed up and I'm a little less walrus-like, because my body is a little bit different than the normal is, I will be doing webinars. I'll be doing courses on cooperative care, because I think if I have this knowledge, I should surely share this knowledge. I should apply what I learned.
Might I suggest that you do courses on how to run successful practices with kind of, a background in
Wait. Can you text that to me after so I can remember it?
Yes.
Okay, good, because I need things to be written down, or else I'm like, there's so many things going on in this little brain right now.
You need to start kind of doing webinars to try and raise the awareness, first of all, of chronic pain, but how to run successful practices with chronic illnesses. So, I mean, I think that's a massive thing for you, and it would be one that would really be interesting for everyone to kind of understand.
Well, I think I want to write a book. I edit and I write in my spare time. So I think, spare time. So I think, I do. And I want to write and tell women's stories, because if this is my story, you can imagine a woman in Asia who doesn't have an excision surgeon. So excision surgeon is the gold standard for endometriosis. In Asia, there's one person, that's Singapore. Now, Asia is the largest populous continent in the world. Now, Australia is really good. New Zealand is really good. Those are the top endo associations